Lucky for some. Who's it going to work out for? We've got BMWs near the front. They make an excellent start. Once again, it's the BMWs that are leading as they head into turn 1. They are 1 and 2 with Lee in third place. No, Apex in third place. Great start from Apex. Not always had the best starts in the Renault, but that was an awesome one. He's up to third place. Lee's in fourth. Mark is in fourth, rather. Mark has gone around the outside, I think, of VX Dave. VX Dave's in fifth place, battling with Lee and Mark all at the same time. Who's he going to play out for? Oh, VX Dave really late on the break, so VX Dave actually gets up the fourth place, gets past both Mark and Lee on the run to the corner there. Now Lee and Danny in the background are sort of side by side now, teammates, and I wonder if Lee's going to try and help Danny out, because Danny fighting for the championship, and that looks like that's going to be the case. Apex putting Stig under pressure for the race lead, but DTI Dave trying to put Apex under some pressure. You've got Apex's teammate VX Dave in fourth place. Yeah, in the background Lee has let Danny straight past, so Danny up to sixth place, which is great from I think ninth on the grid. The grid's so bunched together it's difficult to see where everyone was. Lee actually making a bit of a mistake there as we head up towards the chicane for the first time. Apex trying to put Stig under pressure. I don't think he's going to manage it this time into the chicane. Stig really good. In the background, VX Dave's pulling to the pits already. He's taking an early pit stop, but back to the action, and you've got DTI Dave trying to put Apex under some pressure. It's so close between the top four, with Mark joining in. Excellent drive from Mark so far. And look at this. So Apex up the inside of DTI Dave. Stig has a massive wobble. That's going to give Apex an opportunity to take the lead as they head down towards, mind you, the BMW stayed ahead. Stig stays ahead. He's got some excellent straight line speed, that car. Apex can't quite do him, but Apex is going to do DTI Dave on the inside. DTI Dave leaving plenty of room there. That was good driving by both of those guys as they now head on to the hangar straight where that collision happened in the first race. And in the background, Mark clinging on really nicely. So Mark could be on for a good result in this, as could his teammate who's a bit further behind. And Del Sport, that fantastic podium finish in race 1, and he's showing what he's worth. See if he can make up some extra places in this race. But so far so good from that extra driver. In fact, both extra drivers this weekend doing well. Sammy's back in 9th at the moment, I can tell you, and Danny has not made headway. We didn't see what happened to Danny on the first lap. But Stig's made a mistake and he has to let Apex through. I don't know if it's track limits or just the loss of speed from the slide. But Apex is straight through. So Apex, excellent drive from something like 5th on the grid, I think. And he's up into the lead of the race, heading the BMWs, heading Mark. And this is really good driving from this lot so far. But Stig makes a bit of an error again there. I don't know if that was on purpose, letting the guys through. It wasn't clear. But DTI Davis through. Oh, and in the background, Cordless crashed and crashed hard. So Del Sport is straight through. Looked like Cordless just lost that purely on his own. Difficult to say for sure, but huge damage on that car. And here comes Simon looking up the inside. Can't quite do it there, but I think he will get past fairly soon. Lee has shown some good promise already today, so Lee will be looking for a good result in this one, and he's battling with Simon at the moment. But Simon really on a different level today compared to some of the earlier races in the season. He's doing a really good job. VX Dave's all the way back in 9th, but obviously with the pit stop done. Sammy's taking his pit stop, and Danny with a damaged car again. This is a miserable day continues for Danny as he tries to get that car repaired. Out in front for the race lead though, Apex leads, driving beautifully, as is this man, DTI Dave. Both of these guys driving superbly. In fact, you've got to say the top three. Stig has a big sideways moment in the background, but you've got to say Mark also driving exceptionally well. So these top three being the class of the field in this race so far, and it is so far so good for these chaps. There is just less than a second between Apex and DTI Dave. DTI Dave's car perhaps not got as much straight line speed as the Renault's here, but using that slipstream and the great handling, Dave does do some good setups with that BMW, so he's on for a good result I think in this one if he can hold it all together. Probably not the easiest track for the BMW, so great driving, but all three of these guys doing really well. Stig is still in 4th at the moment with Del Sport in 5th. These guys fairly close on track. In fact, Stig backing off, So here comes Del Sport, who gets up the 4th place. I'm really not sure what's going on with Stig, whether he's got an issue with the car or what, but he just keeps slowing down. Now he seems to be going again, which is really, really odd. But Lee and Simon are the guys to watch at the moment. Simon holding on to that place brilliantly in 5th, ahead of Lee. Both of these guys being very impressive, actually. Oh, Lee just cuts across that, might get him a track limits, because that was quite a chunk of curb there. But this is excellent driving and really good to see. This is some of the closest in the field so far. And in the background you just saw Stig in the 2nd of the BMWs. So I think we'll drop on board with Lee for a moment and we'll see what it's like on board in these cars. As Simon makes a mistake, this is going to be the opportunity that Lee needs to get that position, because he was just struggling to get that overlap. But look how tricky these cars are. Look at the sliding, oversteer, understeer, oversteer, understeer, and Simon's trying to have a go back. So I wonder if Simon set up his car perhaps a little bit more conservatively, but a little bit more stable, because Simon looked really good through there, and he's catching back up. And of course you can use that slipstream as that potential way of overlapping and overtaking as they come up to the chicane. Simon, Extreme Beef, really sensible on the brakes, doesn't do anything silly this time, but he is trying to get on board with Lee. Lee doing a good job as well, but you have to say Simon really stepping up a gear this weekend, and he's really putting Lee under pressure. We know Lee is no slouch at all, so this is great to see. But Simon makes another small mistake, runs a bit wide, might get a track limits warning for that as well, as they come past the very damaged looking Cordless. I think Cordless is actually a lap down, but lots of damage. That's really sad, because Cordless drove a really good race in race 1. Remember, he's dealing with a lot of pain, but he's still no slouch. He's very, very quick. Simon's backed off with that track limits quite considerably now. Out in front, Apex leads the race really well. Again, looking very compliant through the fast corners there. DTI Dave still going with him though. Lost a bit of time now. We're 1.3 seconds is the gap, but it's not huge. Mark, unfortunately, has just not been able to stay with them. That car looking very, very squirmy in the fast stuff, it has to be said. So perhaps the setup of Apex and DTI Dave just helping them get round a little bit quicker here. But Mark maintains 3rd place for now. Del Sport in a great 4th place too. Lee in a good 5th, and Simon in 6th. Cordless is trying to unlap himself by the looks of things. Visibly a lot of damage on the car, but we know that he has pitted, so hopefully most of that has been repaired. The car certainly looks fairly fast. I'd be surprised if he could keep with Simon elsewise, because Simon is lapping very well. Not so great on that last lap, as we said, but it's all looking good. Apex actually the quickest man on track at the moment, but the second quickest man is his teammate, who's already pitted, and he's done a 1:31.2. He's coming up to the line though, so you can see Apex did a 30.9, VX Dave does a 31.2 again, so not quite as quick as his teammate at this stage in the race, but there is a long way to go. And Apex just starting to pull a bit of a gap over DTI Dave, almost 2.5 seconds. The dirt on that car showing that he's been pushing to the absolute max, and he does look good through these fast corners. A little bit of opposite lot correction there, but you see that with all of the Renaults, they're pushing the absolute limits through the fast corners, and it's all looking pretty tidy. Again, lots of correction. That wasn't so good that time. The car wanting to let go underneath him a little bit. You see DTI Dave in the background with a bit of a more comfortable chassis underneath him. It certainly looks, at least, and he's now pulling that gap back down a little bit, but it's not quite enough to get a really good slipstream at this stage. He needs to be a fair bit closer. Mark with his lights on. Mark, I don't know if anyone's told you, it doesn't necessarily speed you up, but it's worth a go. Oh, he's going in for the pits, but he misses the entry, just about recovers it, because this is a tricky pit entry. We'll actually watch on board with Mark here, because we haven't watched anyone else yet, and you can see it's a lap of its own. I think Danny, one of the drivers, was saying it's almost like a Joker lap, the pit lane here, because it is so tight and twisty. It's not straightforward at all, so hopefully we won't get any incidents in the pit lane, but I wouldn't hold your breath, because we're only 1/3 way through this race and there's a lot of people yet to pit. Del Sport running in a podium spot again at the moment. Obviously things haven't worked out with all the pit stops yet, but Del and Lee really looking like they're on for a good result here. Lee obviously was fighting with Simon earlier on, but he's pulled away quite a bit now after Simon had a couple of track limits things. You can see Simon in the background there, a little bit further behind. Stiggy is in 8th place at the moment in the BMW, seems to have got a bit more of a handle on the car than was happening earlier on in the race. It didn't look comfortable at all earlier on in the race, but certainly seems to be running a little bit better now, which is good to see. Sammy is in 9th after that excellent 4th place in race 1. Cordless we know is some way down. Danny's also been in the wars again in this race. There was a lot of damage on that car, he had to pit and repair that. But he's lapping well at the moment. He's lapping pretty much equally with the race leader Apex and VX Dave. They're the 3 fastest guys on track at the moment, and the 3 really fighting for this title, of course. So all 3 of them showing their mettle at the moment. Close on track, we have got Dale and Lee still. We'll go on board in Lee's car because it's always good fun to watch. And they've just come out the first corner, and you can get quite a bit of tow here, and there's an opportunity for outbraking here. We've already seen a few cars do it already today. No opportunity on this occasion, both of them using a little bit of curb, that's fine. 2 wheels is absolutely fine. Lee looking slightly more comfortable on the exit. They'll really pushed it to the max. There was a bit of tyre smoke as they came out. Lee's going to have a bit of a run here, and with that slipstream, is there going to be an opportunity on the brakes? It's very hard to outbrake a car into here. You really need to be side by side. Lee thinks better of it. Lee does the right thing there, and he's looking for that potential exit rather than trying to throw it up the inside, because that just doesn't work and will land you with a penalty. But great driving by both of these. This is really clean, really tidy, really close. Look, there's seldom a car's length between them, and sometimes less. And as they head up to the final chicane, Lee really pushing it. He was a bit sideways coming out of that corner, which has just given Dell a slight breather, I think, as they head towards the final chicane. And I can tell you out front, Apex is absolutely streaking that lead away from DTI Dave. Another 1 minute 30 laps, so really fast stuff from Apex at the moment. A 30.9, VX Dave almost identical with a 31.0, so about a tenth slower. And but these guys really good driving here. So also close on track, we have got Sammy and Stiggs. So there is Sammy in 8th place now, so he's got past Stiggy, and Stig in 9th at the moment. But Apex continues to set the pace in this race, and he is pulling a good lead. Sammy is pulling away from the Stig a little bit now. And back with Lee, and Lee almost has a little look at the end of the hanger straight there. As I said on the previous lap, that's not a place that you overtake unless you are absolutely committed. You have to be properly alongside as Simon goes wide in the background in the green car. And again, Lee was quite sensible. He had a little look and then thought better of it. He knew that that wouldn't have been on. And this is really impressive racing, but Dale really trying hard, and he's pulling a gap a little bit again. It does look like Lee has set his car up quite fast in a straight line, and Del Sport slightly less so, because you notice at the fast corners Del is more than capable. Lee has gone into the pit lane. He makes that pit lane successfully, does it very tidily, gets around the corner. Lovely stuff, because as we've said, it's a very tricky pit lane, and incidents are almost expected. His championship leader VX Dave throwing it into the final chicane. He's not given up on a decent position. Remember, he was at 4th position before the pits, and he's done a 31.1. He's still just a smidge slower than Apex at this stage. So Apex probably has the ringside seat for the victory as things stand at the moment. But VX Dave could be on for 2nd place, because there's a long gap back to DTI Dave, and DTI Dave is lapping about 2.5 slower than VX Dave. So VX Dave is probably 2nd place with all pit stops played out. has Del Sport got the speed to catch up on DTI Dave? He was half a second quicker than DTI Dave on the previous lap, and could Del Sport end up with yet another podium place today? It's totally possible, and it'd be interesting to see what can happen. You can see at this stage in the race things are starting to spread out a little bit, but we've now got the Stig, and so we've got Chris and Sammy fighting it out again over this 8th place. So Stig has caught up Sammy and unable to make the overtake this time. I didn't quite see what happened. It looked like one of them running a little bit wide, but the dust kicked up. We'll go on board with the Stig as we head down start finish straight. So this is Chris's view, 200 kilometers an hour, 220. Look at the straight line speed when you factor in that slipstream, 200, almost 240 kilometers an hour. These cars seriously fast. Sammy's slightly wide of apex, probably Chris slightly wide of apex as well, but nothing too serious. But Stig's got a really good opportunity here. Who's going to be quicker out the corner? It looks like it's Stig. This will give an opportunity as they run up towards the final chicane. That BMW has got some serious straight line speed. Sammy keeps to the inside. Stig tries to go the outside but has a bit of a wiggle on. That's going to lose him some of that straight line speed. There might not be an opportunity there alongside those. They head into the final chicane. Who's going to hold it out on the brakes? Stig very, very gentle. Sammy gives plenty of space. That's excellent driving by both of them. They almost touched, but some excellent driving, and they really gave each other some serious respect and serious space there. Sammy maintains the position for the time being, but it looks like a matter of time. Stig almost has a look into turn 1. It's not a place to overtake though unless you're fully alongside. He thinks better of it, and they continue through first corner in status quo. I think Stig's best opportunity is to slipstream, either outbrake into this next corner, the right-hander, which he is looking at, or get a good slingshot onto the start-finish straight. So yeah, it's not happened on the brakes. I don't think Stig's quite as comfortable as Sammy on the brakes. Sammy looking pretty good on the brakes, but Stig is way, way closer this time than he was last time. And the straight line speed of his BMW and the setup that he's running might give an opportunity. He doesn't look close enough again though, does he? We know how good Sammy is on the brakes, and the BMW a bit tricky on the brakes, but Sammy goes deep. Stig's going to have that opportunity. Stig does get that opportunity. He's alongside, and I think he's going to make that move stick this time. So Chris up to 8th place ahead of Sammy. Gets a bit sideways, gets a lot sideways. That's going to give Sammy an opportunity to get one back at him as they head. So it's just a kink in the track here, left-hander, but there's a bit of a feather on the throttle if you're running really low downforce. I thought Sammy might have an opportunity back at him, can't quite do it. There's a flash of Stig's lights. What's that a warning to? Is that allowing Sammy back past? No, it's not. I'm not quite sure what the flash of the lights there was, but that was great to watch anyway. Really good driving. Out front, Apex has pulled a 15-second lead over DTI Dave. He's absolutely flying. He did a 30.7 on the last lap. To give you an idea, that was a second quicker than his teammate. And actually, you know, and these guys are some of the quickest on the track. Danny's, oh, that could be a track limits there. There was a run over that curb that might cost him a little bit. But he's got a nice big gap at the moment. I don't think he'd be too worried. And we're on lap 13, so we're about 2/3 of the way through the race. Coming up towards 2/3 of the way through the race. DTI Dave doing a really good job, to be honest, in the BMW. Not the easiest track for the Beamer, but he's holding on to second at the moment. Simon's in third, obviously with pit stops yet to play out. Now VX David's taken his pit stop and is the only one out of the top 4 that has, and he's 28 seconds down on the race lead. So will he be able to finish on the podium? You got to think he's got a second place almost in the bag at this rate, because DTI Dave and Extreme Beef Simon both need to pit, as does his teammate Apex, but Apex is quite a long way up the road. But the other two are not actually that far ahead on track, and they've still got to undertake their pit stop. Del Sport and Lee fighting again, almost. It's very close actually. Mark in 5th, Del Sport in 6th, and Lee in 7th place. So these guys are going to be worth watching for the remainder of the race. I can't recall who's done what pit stops, but we know Del Sport must have had his pit stop, who's running in a podium place. We saw Mark have his pit stop earlier, so these guys are really racing for track position. In fact, we also saw Lee take his pit stop, so all three of these chaps have had their pit stop. This is a genuine fight for 5th place, and that would be worth a lot to any of these guys to get that Mark's car looking very, very tidy, as is Dell's, as is Lee's. There's a little bit of damage actually on the front of Mark's there, didn't quite see how that occurred, but all looking good at the moment. Stig still fighting off Sammy for that 8th place, still not looking too comfortable with the rear of that BMW. Runs a little bit wide. I think Sammy's going to have the opportunity. Yes, Stig's had to put his brakes on there to avoid spinning and probably to make sure he doesn't get a penalty as well for track limits. And we've still got a little way to go in this race, but Stig's excellent form from Imola hasn't quite continued here today. He has scored points though, and points are important, so anything that these guys can get will be great. Sammy obviously wants to score as many as he can as well, and then after that first race result, Stig really struggling with the back end of that car. Here's your race leader though, it's Apex heading up towards the final chicane. We've not got too many laps left to run. He's done a 31.6 now. VX Dave is now running faster than Apex. So earlier on we saw Apex was the quicker of the two Emochi cars. At this stage it's swapped, and now VX Dave is on the chase. He was half a second quicker on the previous lap. What's it going to be this lap? VX Dave is not quite at the final chicane, so can't quite tell you what his lap is yet. Mark is still leading the pack of Del Sport and Lee. VX Dave coming up to the start finish line. Smoke from the lockup. Comes over the curves. Really nice line by looks of things there. And he does a 1:30.8, so he's almost a second quicker than Apex on the last lap. So Apex was taking chunks out of VX Dave earlier on in the race. Tables are turning a little bit at this stage, but this might just be Apex taking it steady. He's got his pit stop yet to run. He wants to have a clean end to the race and potential of winning this race, and he's certainly in the ringside seat at the moment. DTI Dave a long way back, 17 seconds off, still yet to pit. Simon Extreme Beef also yet to pit, 25 seconds off the race lead. In fact, he's not far ahead of VX Dave. You can just see in the background there who has pitted. Is Apex going to stay up for another lap? He might well do. It does tend to pay dividends pitting quite late on in the race. Yeah, he stays out again, and we go and look at these guys battling over this 5th place. Mark still holding out 5th place, but positions are swapped in the background because Lee has got past Del Sport. One of them kicks up a marker post, and goodness me, this racing is so close. Again, VX Dave quicker by the way than Apex on the last lap, so again this is really going to close down that race for the race win at the end of the race if they continue as things are. Look how close this is though, excellent racing. It's 3 abreast. Who's going to be bravest? Lee goes for the lunge up the inside of Mark. He's fully alongside, so he's fully entitled to, and that was really clean and a really, really good move actually. That was great to watch there. Apex is about half a lap ahead of them actually. He's already on the hanger straight. So just watching these guys as they come up to the final chicane. Who's it going to be this time? Del Sport has a little look on Lee. Lee locks up, gets a bit sideways. They all get a bit crossed up apart from Mark, who thinks, Mark's hit the wall hard, and that was a human error, unfortunately. A small mistake that turned into a big mistake. We saw a very similar thing from Cordless earlier on in this race, so both of those 4C Motorsport cars out of luck with their own error there. We're here with Apex. Is he going to pit this lap, I wonder? So we're on lap 16, and he's slowing, he's almost lost it, he has lost it. It's almost a full spin. He recovers it and just about keeps it out of the wall. That was an amazing recovery, and so lucky not to hit the tyre wall. But this is crunch time now. We've got DTI Dave in second position. Is DTI Dave going to go through and lead the race, or is he also going to make his pit stop? DTI Dave goes through, so DTI Dave is going to lead the race for the first time. This could be a good move and an opportunity to close some of those seconds back on Apex, because we know that pitting later can be beneficial on overall race time. Here comes VX Dave through now. Where is Apex's teammate? Apex is just about to come out the pit lane. He's almost up to the speed board. Here comes VX Dave. It's going to be so tight between these. He's out of the speed boards, but VX Dave comes through. So VX Dave actually takes the race lead on track and takes it by some margin. There's a good couple of seconds there. We did see, obviously, Apex lost out a bit because of that semi-spin, that half spin that he recovered from coming into the pit lane. But goodness me, it would have actually been extremely close. I kind of expected earlier on, where Apex looked so much quicker, that he would come out a fair chunk ahead of VX Dave. But here it is, VX Dave is your race leader overall, because DTI Dave yet to pit in the BMW, and he's just been let past by his teammate that is lapping Stig. So they are running first and ninth at the moment. Obviously DTI Dave is about to pit, so Stig will unlap himself. But we'll have to wait and see which lap DTI Dave is going to pit. He's still got about 3 different opportunities. He's got this lap, end of lap 18 or end of lap 19. There's some flashing of the lights. DTI Dave is pulling over, I suspect, into pit lane. Yes, he does, and Stig flies by in the other white BMW. Those cars looking really fantastic, actually. So VX Dave is going to inherit the lead from DTI Dave, and this is for the race win now. And Apex right behind in second place. So the 2 Team Emochi cars that finished 1-2 in race 1 have somehow managed to get all the way to the front again in race 2. Lee's in a really superb 4th place, and it could be close between him and DTI Dave over that final podium spot. We'll have to see where DTI Dave is at the moment. He's still in pit lane, and Lee is coming up to the final chicane, so this is close-ish. DTI Dave hasn't quite got up to the speed board yet. Here comes Lee over the start-finish line, flat chat. DTI Dave coming up to the speed board now. Right, he's now released. Lee comes into turn 1, and he's going to be absolutely flying. Can he get into the slipstream of DTI Dave? He's actually further back than I thought. The DTI Dave is actually looking reasonably secure for 3rd place in this race at the moment. And further back, Dell is still trying to chase Lee down again. So Dell in a really good place, Simon in a really good place. Mark in 7th place, which is not bad considering that big collision with the wall, with the barrier. It could have been a better result, but it's lucky he's still running, although he is doing very slow lap times. So whether he'll be able to hold off ahead of Sammy, who's only a corner behind, who knows. 2 laps left to run. VX Dave looking quite comfortable, but he's still throwing that car hard through the chicane, as is his teammate. Look at his teammate, even more sideways, I think. And they're not close enough to really be battling for this victory at this stage, but they're both pushing the absolute max out of those blue and yellow Emochi cars. You can hear the crowd in the background. There's DTI Dave in 3rd place, and this would be a sensational finish, I think, for the BMW man to get a podium around here in the BMW. It's not an easy track at all for that car. Lee's in 4th, Dell's in 5th at the moment, and oh no, there's Danny losing it into the chicane. There's going to be more damage on that car, and Simon having a good run there. Cordless, we know, is a long way back after that incident earlier on in the race. Here is VX Dave on lap 19 of 20, and all looking pretty calm out in front. Now, Guy in the 2nd of the Emochi cars, he has surprisingly only won 1 race this season. You sort of think back and you think he must have won several. He's been on the podium so many times. He really wants another victory here. He won at Monza in that fantastic race 1 that we had, with all the slipstreaming between the race leaders, and he did that epic job to win that one. Is he going to be able to put his team out under pressure? You would think probably not. There's 2 seconds between them as they head on to the last lap, and that's probably enough. But Lee He's trying to push DTI Dave for that third place. He has managed to catch the BMW, and this is really his battle on, I think, for third place at this stage in the race. And I can tell you Apex is just chipping small margins maybe out of that lead, but there's not much in it. This DTI Dave really sideways. He's gone in for a full spin. Lee goes through. Lee's up to third place as they head on to the last lap. Oh, that is really unfortunate for Dave, but Lee has got some track limits penalties, so this is not over yet. VX Dave now following Cordless, who's being lapped, so he's going to be able to get a bit of slipstream out of him as we come up to the end of the hangar straight for the very last time, and he turns in. He loses the back end a little bit. Oh, that could be close to track limits, that. Oh, he's put his brakes on. Yeah, I think he's had a track limits penalty for that. He's slowed right up. This is going to make things absolutely nail-biting as they head up towards the start-finish line because... Oh, and he loses it again. Here comes his teammate, really fast up the straight, and this is going to be really intense. Look how close they are as they head up towards the finish here. And this is for the final. This is the final lap for the final time for the win. VX Dave is ahead though as they come into the chicane. Oh, he brakes really late though. He only just about makes the corner, almost loses it. Sideways. There's a bit of glitching and Apex almost gets up the inside. It's almost a photo finish. Excellent driving from both Emochi cars. They keep it clean to the end, but VX Dave just about pips his teammate. Lee is going to finish third by the looks of things on track, although he's going to get bumped down because of track limits penalties. So DTI Dave, although he had that unfortunate spin, he is going to inherit that podium, which he will be quite relieved about. Lee gets a bit sideways coming into the final chicane. He finishes third on track, but he'll get bumped down. This man finishes third in reality, and then you've got Del Sport and Simon. You just saw Brave a couple of laps down, but he sets the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. Sammy's going to get 8th place, ahead of Stig, ahead of Chris. Just watching Sammy come across the line, so another good result for Sammy. Stig will be a bit disappointed with this weekend, I'm sure, but he picks up 9th spot, and Cordless picks up the final point, although everybody scores because Danny gets the fastest lap.